Okay, so take the CH3 peak again. So in the previous example, we looked at it if the CH3 was adjacent to a singular hydrogen. But in this example, we're going to put it next to two hydrogens and see what difference that makes to the spectrum. Now, obviously, it's going to make it slightly more complicated because now we've got the possibility of the spins of the hydrogens adjacent being up or down as they were in the previous example, but we've now got the possibilities of various combinations whereby one could be up, one could be up, they could both be down, one up, one down, etc. And so we need to look at those various different combinations. So if we take those two protons and essentially start to draw a diagram similar to the type of diagram you will have seen with electrons, but we have both protons spinning in the up direction, we'll imagine that the magnetic field is going to be going upwards as well. Then we've got one possible situation there. If they are then not aligning with the magnetic field, we've got another possible situation there, whereby if we think about the numbers, we've got two upward integrals, and that is going to be different to the magnetic field if we've got two downward integrals. Likewise, that is going to be different to if we had one of each. Okay, so essentially the energy of this middle one would essentially be the average of the magnetic field B, because we've got an equal contribution from an up proton minus the contribution from the down proton. But what is evident is that actually if we were to label these two protons, and so this was perhaps the left-hand side proton and this was perhaps the right-hand side proton, then it is possible, probability-wise, that the left-hand proton would be down and the right-hand proton would be up. And what we see is that it is twice as likely through combinations and probability that a situation will arise where when we have two protons, you have one of them pointing upwards and the other one pointing downwards. That is twice as likely to occur as both protons going upwards, and likewise twice as likely as both protons to be going downwards. And what that does to the spectrum is it splits it. As you can see from the previous one, when it was next to one proton, we split it into a doublet. This is going to split it into 1, 2, 3 different peaks. But in the first example, what we saw was we split it into a doublet where both peaks were the same height. However, in this one, what we're going to do is split it into a peak where we have a one peak there, a second peak there, a third peak there. And what we will see is that again, the area under the curve includes all of the peaks, and that is still equal to 3 hydrogens. However, the areas under the curves now correlate to the probability of seeing the different orientations of the protons. So in going from, as we did before, a low resolution spectrum, in this one, we split the peak, and this time we see a triplet with an integration height of 1, 2, 1, whereby the peaks 1, 2, 1 in terms of height order. And that triplet is observed because we are looking, remember, at a CH3 peak. So the peak is due to the CH3. However, the shape is due to the presence of an adjacent CH2. Okay, and that's the key thing. So what we're seeing is the presence of the CH3 peak, but it is split because of the adjacent CH2 group.